Okay, so thank you very much. Now we move to the Community Organisation Loan Scheme application. So welcome to the table, Sam and John.
Kia ora.
So if you could just talk us through this briefly. I know that there's been some questions through, so if you're able to kind of answer those proactively for us, that would be great.
Sure, thank you. The loan report's in front of you. The request is for $1.2 million to allow the trust to restore the buildings as discussed. The loan would be to the Christchurch Heritage Limited, which is a wholly owned company of the trust. So it fits the criteria of the community loan scheme, 100%. Our recommendation is for 2 loans to make that happen, both of $600,000. One is from the community loan scheme, which would be charged at 2%. The interest would be capitalised until the point we tenant the buildings, in which case it's our assessment that they'll be able to service that $600,000 loan at 2%. However, they may not be able to service more than that, hence this usage of the Heritage Building Fund, which sits on, which is could be done as a loan at no interest because the money is sitting in the council as cash. So that's the basis of the recommendation, and happy to take questions around this.
Thank you. Sam, then Mike.
Yeah, thanks for that, and thanks for sort of preempting a lot of those questions. Just a couple. So the first one is the 2% interest rate on that. Have we looked at just charging, I mean, we don't borrow at anywhere near 2% for a lot of this stuff. Have we looked at just charging them a margin on our cost of borrowing? So
we had a paper to council in November last year around setting the interest rate for the community loan scheme, and that was set at 2%.
Right.
Now, there has been other larger loans outside of that scheme that have been done at the cost of borrowing plus a small margin, and we've done that. Council's done that when they take out a specific loan to make that larger loan possible. But loans from the community loan aren't done in that way. It's done out of council's costs. I don't want to dive too deeply into the council's financial operational systems, but that loan is set at 2% to be able to cover cost of borrowing long term and be a low cost loan as per the intention of the community loan scheme.
Okay, and then so just if the interest rates were to go up over time, do we effectively wear that hedging?
Correct.
We do, okay. And then just to delve in, I mean, I agree with granting the loans and everything, I wouldn't stand in the way of that. I'm just trying to understand why we wouldn't put interest on the heritage loan.
So 2 reasons. One is it would create increased risk around the trust's ability to repay, or could, and certainly to service interest on that loan until the point where they sell the building. That's our assessment. And 2, the Heritage Fund is cash. We wouldn't be borrowing for it. So that's the purpose of our recommendation.
So in terms of it being cash, I'm just trying to understand how that exists when we have over $2 billion of debt.
Again,
we've been through it. Yeah, actually, we went to the informal this morning. We've asked for a memo and some advice to come
I was
to us
keen to do it in
that.
public rather than...
Yeah.
I think the unequivocal advice that we've received from our finance partners, who admittedly are conservative, is that loaning the trust 1.2 million % at 2%, they will have problems repaying, and there's a risk that will set them up to fail.
No, John, the question was, how does this fund exist when we've got so much debt? So maybe you could give a bit of background that was given this morning on the sort of history of the fund and why it's still sitting where it is.
I think Carolyn Ingalls is probably best placed to do that.
Great, thank you.
So the fund was set up to purchase for council to purchase and on-sell buildings that were at risk of demolition. The fund has existed, as far as we can tell, since probably the 70s, and it has been used to purchase buildings in the past, the old government buildings, the Coachman I think it was used as a facility in the Methodist Church at Sydenham and Grub Cottage. We had from a heritage perspective, it doesn't exist inside the budget that I manage. It exists and is held at a corporate level. We had assumed that as a result of the 2011 earthquakes and the council looking at its finances then, that fund had effectively been discontinued and absorbed into the consolidated fund.
Okay. So probably just.
So it was a surprise to us, A, that it existed, and B, that it existed as cash,
Yeah.
because we had assumed that it was always a loaned facility.
Right, okay. And probably just the final question then, if we're, in the context of 1.2 million, if we're concerned of $12,000 a year being an impediment on their ability to service everything, how comfortable are we in the entire ability to repay the loan?
The repayment of the loan really comes down to the ability to sell the building. So the plan of the trust is to restore the building, tenant it, and then sell it.
Yep.
Because it's, in their belief, going to sell more successfully if it's tenanted. So hence the structure of the loan. So once tenanted, we think they can service half that loan at 2%. And then it may take, who knows how long to make that sale. It might not happen immediately, so there's some time built in.
Yeah. Well, can I just signal I'd be keen to amend number 2, and I can flick it through to Aidan.
Yeah,
Cool, thanks.
And Brett just talked about the neat change in last year's annual report and the list of funds. So it might pay us some day to look through the rest of that list of funds as well, just so we're more aware of them. Mike.
Thank you. So obviously I can see the reasons to. I can see the reasons why that it's been split in two. So, and there's quite a big difference, I guess. One has quarterly repayments at 2%. The other one is paid at the end when the building sold with no interest. I mean, a lot of that's obviously to enable the trust to actually be able to meet some of the requirements. Therefore, if the Historic Buildings Fund has a $850,000, wouldn't it be therefore better to actually put that loan up to $850,000 and then reduce the community loan to $350,000 to make it easier to service for the trust?
That could be an option. The downside might be that it would fully exhaust that fund. So
Which was used last. Yeah.
Correct,
Well,
so
it's a
that-
surprise to a lot of us.
Yeah.
So, Chair, I'd just like to, when we get to the point, move something that actually adjusted those amounts.
Just additionally to that, thanks to my colleague John, the 2% interest charge on half of the total loan council was providing felt like a fair middle ground and was around the mark that we felt that they'd be able to service that loan until the building is sold.
Any other questions? No? Okay. So we have a recommendation from staff. Do I have a mover? Yeah, so you're going to move.
I want to change in one to, in first one to 350,000 and then in two to 850,000.
So do I have a seconder for that proposal, Jay? Okay, do I have any debate? So would you like to foreshadow a motion that's different?
Well, mine's just coming on the screen now.
Okay, so that's been moved, so you're going to then, we're going to go through an amendment to what's been moved.
Or do you want sorry.
Yeah.
Do you want to then change mine so it doesn't put a specific value in there, so that if Mike's one comes through, it just it applies to the regardless of the ratio or the proportion?
So yours is,
It's effectively just to add 2% to the interest on the Heritage Fund, noting that at the end of it, it's capitalised and it's sorted at sale, like the staff have talked about.
okay, so we'll have to move that as an amendment.
Yeah.
But if you just take out the dollar amount, then that is easier, because it's currently moved at 850.
Yeah. So I'm happy with that. If it speeds it up. So.
Questions at this point, still on clarification?
So I'm just concerned that we had another heritage group come this morning, and if we don't have the advice back on that, so while I have sympathy for the amendment that Councillor Davids... No, I'm just trying to give you the context of the question. While I've got sympathy for what's been put forward as an amendment, I'm concerned about the impact on another public participation that we've had this morning. Can staff give us some sense of what the response has been to that? Because it would have seemed logical that this fund could have been used as a potential loan option for them as well.
You mean the balance?
The balance of the Heritage Building Fund.
So John, can you give us advice?
I can give you advice on that. This is very high level and incomplete. I've met the group, and in assistance with Diane Brandish, discussed their finances, and the group were requesting a council contribution of $500,000, a write-off of any development contributions, and a write-off of a council loan. Our response was that in terms of the building heritage, because the building had come down, there was very, very little left to constitute a heritage building. The main purpose of the endeavour was to build another community centre. Our advice was a community centre is not needed in that location at that time, primarily due to the proximity of other community centres. The council owned one across the street, a centre in Sydenham Park, and other developments nearby. So respectfully, the answer was not what they wanted to hear. We then gave them advice and said, if you'd like to discuss the issue with elected members, make a deputation to this committee. You're best placed to do it slightly ahead of the long-term plan, and also make a submission in the long-term plan, which is exactly what they've done. Our relationships have been very cordial, very respectful, but it would be inappropriate of me to give definitive advice on something they've submitted this morning, because I haven't seen that, but that's a general tenor of the conversation that we've had to date.
Yeah, so just to follow up on that, putting aside the request for an additional grant, just the clarification on the outstanding loan balance, how much that is, and have we written that off, or is that still on our box?
I can't answer in that level of detail at the moment, Councillor. I need to go and prepare an answer for that.
But in terms of heritage funding, that could be applied to that loan balance, right? That loan was for a heritage building.
No, again, I'd have to go back and check. I'd have to involve the heritage colleagues on that.
So can I just clarify? So we've requested advice back on the public forum for this morning, but the advice is that it wouldn't likely qualify for heritage funding, but if they chose to, they could apply for a community loan. Is that right? But it wouldn't qualify for heritage funding because there's so little of the heritage fabric of the building left.
Is this the presentation this morning?
Yanni was trying to work out whether he wanted more money left over in the Heritage Buildings Fund or not.
All I can say is that I think it would be wrong of us to give this committee any more information on a deputation this morning that we haven't had the chance to fully discuss with our colleagues, because this committee may use that information to influence decision making, and we're not confident that what we're giving you is robust or sufficient enough. We haven't checked it, so we'd probably prefer not to.
Great, thank you.
For those reasons.
Yeah, I've got a question for staff. So you've obviously been working with the trust, not that one, Anna's one. And were they happy with your recommendation? And they felt comfortable they could service that?
I'm not sure it's my place to answer.
I'm happy to ask them. Anna, are you happy with the current staff recommendation, or would the current, sorry?
She said she was happy.
Yeah.
I think the Trust is very happy to have the assistance of the council to be able to have a loan. How you allocate that loan is your decision.
My question is actually, Anna, for you paying 2% on the 600,000 as suggested, are you happy with that?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
We can manage
helpful.
that.
Thank you.
But if we could get it
Yes.
better,
And another question for staff too, if I may, and that'd be John.
Thanks, Anna.
So, if
There are often leading questions.
that's the intention. And also, John, is there likely to be any other applications coming for this fund? If we were to exhaust it today, this is not for you, Anna, this is for John.
Anna, thank you very much. If you could sit back now.
So, John, if we were to, exhaust the fund today, there'd be nothing left for any other applications that came for that Heritage Fund. Is there likely to be any other applications?
Sorry, are you talking about the heritage
Yes.
or the community loans?
Maybe Carolyn should answer that one.
Yeah.
So Brendan and I have just had a quick discussion. We're not aware of anything, and our recommendation would be that council should manage its existing heritage portfolio well before it starts adding to its heritage portfolio.
Yeah. The report says that there's no intention to be using it for other things
Thank
at the
you.
moment. So, Mike, you had a question. Did you want to
Sorry,
direct
it's
one to
unfair
Anna?
to call Anna down
No.
again, but
You opt use her discretion.
well,
Do you also have a question?
Well, I had a
for Anna?
question because there was obviously a leading question about the staff's recommendation, and we've actually moved something different. And I guess my question would be to the Trust, actually, is keeping the same amount, the 1.2, but then reducing the actual amount you have to pay back in quarterly instalments with interest, a better outcome for the Trust?
That's a leading question.
yes, it certainly would be.
Thank you.
And it would be much appreciated if that decision was made and that amendment was passed.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm happy with 2 leading questions, not a problem.
Question?
Okay, are there any other questions
sure.
for clarification of either the motion or questions of staff?
Can we see the whole motion?
Yeah.
I can't see the total.
Just need to
No, I have to,
Yeah. That's good.
okay. Yanni?
So, just in terms of how soon could we find out about the outstanding loan balance amount for the Sydenham Heritage Trust? Because that was used for heritage initially, right? I just want to get advice back, and if we can get it today or in a tea break, because although I've got sympathy for what Councillor Davidson is proposing, I do feel uncomfortable that we've got this unknown quantity of this loan that is possibly being able to be paid off by this Heritage Building Fund.
Okay,
Look,
so,
I'm afraid I couldn't give you an answer to that. I'd have to go and have a look to see where the information is. It's not the sort of thing I could commit to running away and doing by tea time.
so John, just clarify process-wise, if the council is asked to write off a loan, do we need to find the funds from another fund, or is it written off within the financial system? So Sam, you might know that, I don't know. Because
There are a number of ways council can write off a
Yeah.
loan. This is probably not a question for us. We'd like to get some finance advice on that. There are a number of different mechanisms depending on how the loan's structured and the terms and the conditions.
I think there's always a lot of leeway in what we can do as council. So you may see that has a bearing on your decision today, but we're not able to get that information for us today, and I'd quite like us to be able to make this decision. Yeah, Anne?
Thank you. Just wanted to clarify with staff. So are you saying, did I hear you say that you feel that it's better for us to put extra money into this now from the cash pot that we've found, rather than anticipate further need? So address what we need now.
So The trust is,
850.
the trust, oh, no, I'm not necessarily commenting on that. I think we've outlined the pros and cons
Right.
of what's in the fund, what it was for,
Right.
what it's doing, and the impact on their ability to repay, and the decision sits with council.
Right. Sorry, I thought I heard
But-
staff say that they felt that we should manage what we have already well.
I
Indeed.
did say that the council has a portfolio of heritage buildings, and I think that the advice from heritage staff would be that managing that well would be the first step before you use this fund to quite deliberately go and purchase a building at risk that would even temporarily add to that portfolio. That would then mean that council would have to find funding to strengthen, bring up to building code, whatever was required for the building that you purchase, you may purchase.
Yeah. Thank you. Melanie? And then Jamie.
So you're not suggesting, though, that this heritage fund could be used for council buildings, though, are you? No.
No,
No. Let's go.
not for working on. James?
Thanks. I have read this in here, but now I can't find it. How much is left in the community loan scheme there? It's heaps, isn't it? It's in excess of...
Heaps is a nice term. Yes, so if
technical
this
term,
grant
isn't it?
is made, there'll
Yeah.
be about 900,000 left in the community loan scheme.
So I guess, real simple question then now. Look, they've come along to us with a community loan scheme application of $1.2 million. Why have we got all so clever with it when everyone's actually pretty on board with the fact that this qualifies for the community loan scheme pretty well? It's a good cause. Why don't we just give them a loan of $1.2 million at 2% and then move on? It's just, it feels like we've got now 2 amendments and possibly a
Okay, so
third.
James.
For 2 reasons.
Yeah.
One is our assessment is that they cannot afford to service a $1.2 million loan at 2%.
Yet they made an application for $1.2 million to the community loan scheme.
Correct. And when we receive an application, we assess it for repayability and risk.
But they'll be charging market rentals, will they not, for the tenants?
If the restoration is completed with the 1.2 million, if they can find a tenant, and then our assessment is based on the rental valuation and the costs of trust, etc., is that 2% on 600,000 is an appropriate risk level for them to service. Additionally, $1.2 million from the community loan scheme would be by far the largest loan from that scheme, and would make up over 1/3 of the entire pot, which is a really high kind of risk in terms of keeping that community loan scheme available to others to apply. So we aren't comfortable giving community loans of that size.
Okay.
Anything further? Andrew?
Just as a matter of process, can I note that if this fails, I would be happy to foreshadow moving the staff recommendation.
Thank you. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so at this point we will move into debate, and then we've got an amendment of Sam's, which is one to include 2%, scroll down, 2% on the Heritage Buildings Fund, on the cash fund. So we'll do the amendment first, but we'll do one debate, and then we'll move the amendment, and then go to the substantive, and then potentially to the foreshadow if needed. Okay? So do I have any debate?
Just really briefly, look, I'm happy. I've obviously put up an amendment today, just to effectively balance out the loan that's being provided. The 2% over 10 years is actually a really good deal for the organisation. And if you think, I'm actually comfortable as well with the 50-50 split between, so actually the staff proposal, just with that interest being added. And I think you do it for 2 reasons, because the staff have clearly articulated that they can service the $600,000, they can service the $600,000 from the community fund over the 10 years, and then they will settle the heritage fund at the other end. That makes perfect sense, and I think the amendment will just strike a good balance between enabling the development that needs to occur, but at the same time protecting the ratepayer at a minimal cost. If you look at it, it's $12,000 a year for the interest on the $600,000. That's 3 or 4 ratepayers' rates in a ward like mine. So I just think we need to get that balance right, and my amendment would do that. So it'd be great if people could support it.
Thank you, Pauline, then Jake.
Yeah, well, this amendment here to the substantive puts me in a difficult position, because I'm happy to support the original staff recommendation because I believe that it's a good balance. I think it's a good recommendation, and the trust is happy with that and can manage that. We've been told they can't manage the 2% on the other 600 from the Heritage Fund, and I don't want to stress them out on that. I don't see any point in exhausting a fund just because it's there either. So I'm happy to support the original staff recommendation because I really do think this is an incredibly worthy project. The work that's gone into this has been just amazing to watch, and the end product is brilliant. It's shaping up every day. So I do feel comfortable that the trust can manage the staff recommendation of splitting it into 2 lots of 600, paying interest on one lot and not on the other. So I'll have to vote against this one, sadly, but I'm not voting against the project itself, so I want that to be clear. It's an awkward position.
Thank you. Jake?
Following on from Pauline, I won't be supporting the amendment. I think we should be doing everything we can to make it as easy and as stress-free to protect heritage in our city. I'm delighted to support the substantive moved by Councillor Davidson, which is something I don't often get to say about something moved by Councillor Davidson. And I just wanted to say that it'll be great to see these 2 buildings progress. It's a slice of history that will be maintained and not left and ruined. And these 2 buildings are actually in an area of our CBD that has a lot of such history, and it's going to be great to unlock this city block for protection and public amenity into the future.
Thank you. Any further debate? James?
Thanks. Look, ironically, I would have supported a $1.2 million loan from the community loan scheme at 2% interest, like what was applied for, which Sam's amendment results in. However, I'm going to vote against the amendment only because I think you need to be consistent with the purpose of those funds, and historically there hasn't been interest charge on the Historic Buildings Fund, so I can't see how we can just start it now for someone else. I think, you know, that sets a dangerous precedent that halfway through a scheme that you change the rules. So I'll vote against this amendment, but I think there's merit in actually just having that fund closed up. So I'm probably leaning more towards supporting Mike's amendment, and then it can be done and dusted.
Thank you. Any further? Andrew, then Phil, then Anne.
Thank you. In my view, what we've got in front of us is a sensible and pragmatic approach. It allows the projects to be completed in a way that's affordable for the trust and that sees interest rates on the community loan covering council's borrowing costs. On the matter of the interest on the heritage buildings loan, so Sam's amendment, or on the whole amount being paid from the community loan scheme, the whole 1.2 million, I draw council's attention to paragraph 4.1.2 in the report, which clearly states that the trust's ability to service the loan at that level is not there. We shouldn't be setting them up to fail, and this paragraph in the report certainly supports that, and I'm very happy to take that advice. We've heard it several times this morning as well. It's the Trust's clear intention to sell the buildings once they're completed, which will allow the Heritage Buildings Fund loan to be repaid at that time, and I'm pretty confident, based on past projects, that we should be confident that that will occur. So I don't support charging interest on the whole amount. And for that reason, I don't support the amendment. We shouldn't be setting them up to fail. Clause 4.1.2 makes it clear that that's what we would be doing if we went with a scheme that charged interest on the whole amount. So I'm pleased to support what's in front of us has been moved and seconded. It provides the best support to getting these key buildings in a key site in the centre of the city completed and supporting the Trust in their great work to do that. I think it's important that we do acknowledge the work that the Civic Trust have done on other projects around town as well as these 2 buildings. We're fortunate to have a group of this nature in town. We lost a lot of heritage, some of it unnecessarily as a result of the earthquakes. What we've got left is very important, and I think it's absolutely right that we should put our strongest support behind what's here today. That's the reason I'll be supporting what's in front of us.
Thank you. Phil?
Andrew's just more or less said what I was going to say.
Okay, thank you very much. Short and sweet. Anne?
I'll be supporting the original recommendations as well, because I think it acknowledges the work that's been done behind the scenes, which staff do to build relationships with different groups. They see the big picture and they come with recommendations from that understanding. I think it also acknowledges and supports those who are passionate about preserving our heritage. We don't. We want to give them as we want to make it as easy and workable for them, and it's about preserving our heritage, which is what we're here to do this morning. That's the point of this, is actually to preserve our heritage for our future generations. So I will be supporting the original recommendation.
Anyone else before I do mine and then have Mike? It's an amazing project, and I've had a quick look through. The work of the Trust has been phenomenal, and the goal of just saving the heritage and not necessarily owning it, but just having it there for the city is admirable. I'll be voting for what's in front of us, but not the amendment. And my issue with the 2% on the heritage part of that is that actually it doesn't cost council anything. We're not having to borrow for it at this point, and I object to us trying to make money from a not-for-profit or community group, and so that's why I won't be supporting the amendment of adding 2% to that, even though it would be at the end of the time when the building is sold. So with that, I'll switch to Councillor Davidson.
Thanks. I think everything's pretty much been...
Sorry, yeah, I asked it before. Yeah, continue, Mike.
Pretty much everything's been said, and you know, echo the thoughts of Councillor Turner and McLennan. The reality is, one of the things, the good thing about this debate we're having is everyone actually agrees about supporting these heritage buildings and actually funding or giving a loan to the Trust, which is really good. My motion is really just to try and put forward the best outcome we can for the Trust to ensure that they have the best opportunity not to fail. Potentially I'd support it, the 600k split if my one fell over, but you know, you start creeping up there, it increase the risk. So I want to try and make it easy as possible for the Trust, who have done some fabulous work, and they should be acknowledged. When you look at Manchester Street, you know, there's a couple of buildings that stand out, and that's because of the dedication and hard work of a number of people.
Thank you, and with that I will put the amendment initially, which is to add 2% to the heritage component, heritage fund component of the loan. Those in the amendment. Yeah, there is only one amendment. That's Councillor McDonald's.
And then can I just have clarity around how we record concern at the quantum that Mike's shifting?
Well, that will be when you...
I can't see it on the screen, sorry.
Okay. So we'll do the amendment first, right, and then we will move to the substantive. Yep. But we do need to see the amendment. Okay, anyway, those in favour of adding 2% with the amendment, please say aye. Aye. Any against? No. I declare that lost. No? No division? Thank you very much. Any abstentions? No? Okay, in that case we'll move to the substantive. And what we might do at this point is just look at number... Oh no, we have to do the whole lot, and then you have to move the whole lot again, that's fine. There's a foreshadowed motion to move the original staff recommendation. Yep. Okay, all those in favour of the motions, please say aye. Aye. Those against? No. Carried. Thank you very much. Yep, that's fine. So who, hands up for those against? Sam, Catherine, James, and Pauline, for different reasons, I think. But yeah, oh no, split. Okay.
And I'll just have mine recorded against 2.
Carried.
So I'll just have mine recorded against 2.
Okay, and Councillor Johansson would like his recorded against 2.
Good to
Yeah. Okay.